In this video, I want to briefly discuss and define synthesis, and in particular describe aspects of the nature of synthesis in regards to its existence as a matter of basic properties and intrinsic characteristics that help to bound it and parameterize it within this framework that has more of these preliminary, well-defined characteristics that tend to be more universal, but that don't necessarily fit every specific situation, but generally tend to, again, be universal and universalizing. Um, so synthesis typically involves, at its core, these reciprocal relations, and that has to do with pairings between the same or similar properties. That there's these links that we can form between categories, or radial associations is another way you can think about it, and that's probably a little bit more accurate, but the terminology might be a little bit more advanced. So, but that involves more of a direct connection and a direct relationship between two reciprocally related objects or pairings. And synthesis typically involves associations between these reciprocal relations, and they become they form these synthesis, or these combined categories of associations, links of associations, as well as uh, uh, these radial associations and in a radial connection. And a radial is a direct match between, or the sameness existing between two properties. They're reciprocal, and then they become reciprocally related. So they're radial, and they're reciprocally related through the radial, because they have the exact same or nearly the same properties, in which at some point there is sameness. And the sameness allows us to define property pretty much concretely, and there's a ground truth and a realistic truth to that establishes synthesis as something that exists and is also something that is paradoxically natural, but it's innately synthetic. So that's important. And this is a synthetic category of existence, and this has to do very much with categorical epistemology and a categorical way of knowing that involves understanding the nature of things and how we go about defining things and well defining things and deepening our knowledge of uh, thingness, as well as the world that surrounds us and ourselves and the nature of self, as well as the nature of the mind and the characters and properties, as well as the qualities of the mind and virtues of the mind, and also the contemplative mind in particular, the virtues of our existential contemplations of existence that allow us to live more meaningfully, often through synthesis, and learning to self-direct our self-synthesis in more of these efficacious and meaningful ways rather than meaningless ways, and ways that tend to be more isolating, in terms of recognizing the solitude of existence as something that can be very valuable and enlightening, and a great time for contemplating the matters of existence and deepening our self-knowing and knowledge through encounters with reality that tend to matter to us and tend to be deepening and enriching to our being, often through, again, these synthetic relationships, and learning to form these radials with our environment through our conscious awareness and how we associate with meaning, but also to form these more linked associations, as well as these synthetic pairings that have more of these dynamical frames outside just a radial. Um, but that's just a little bit for synthesis for now, and I'll probably be doing a whole lecture on radial moving forward, and talking about relations, and particularly when I get into uh, relations theory, I'll be describing that much more in depth. So I hope you enjoy this video. Bye.